You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money. Welcome back, my sassy friend, for another episode of Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, and of course, this podcast. And today with me, I have Morgana, I said it right, Rae, and she's a 20-time #1 international best-selling author and a mentor coach. Regarded to be the world's #1 authority on relationship with money, her groundbreaking approach to love-centered wealth building has featured her on the Wall Street Journal, Yahoo Finance, all the major television networks, coast-to-coast radio, and hundreds more. Morgana's fans, I said it wrong there. Morgana's fans call her the money goddess because of the many documented stories of clients manifesting unexpected income of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, even over $1 million within hours of changing their relationship with money. A pioneer in personal development for over 30 years, Morgana Rae speaks and coaches from a desire to empower idealistic entrepreneurs, artists, healers, and humanitarians to have a big impact in the world and to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money. You are a woman behind my own heart. If I could have had a picture image of what do you call it? Clone twin? Okay. Because I absolutely love money. I used to not love money, and now I do. And I think that there is a rift between us, especially women, with having a relationship with money and being able to create and retain and expand wealth. And then when we see that when we change that relationship, that we're actually able to do that regardless of coming from it, there's so many more doors and windows and all those things that open. So share first, thank you for being on my show. And second, will you share with us your story? Like one of the things that we were talking about before we started recording was that one of the proudest moments was you changing your relationship with money. Mm-hmm. So tell us about your story.
Oh, thank you for asking. And before I dive into my story, in my experience, because I've been coaching as of this month, June 2024, I've been coaching 30 years as of this month. And it has been my observation through a really wide array of clients in every kind of background, corner of the earth, profession, all that. Money is the #1 excuse that human beings give for what we can't have, do, or be. And so if we're just going to talk about living a good life, we have got to get into a good relationship with money. Otherwise, it's always going to be the obstacle. So my story, it's so funny to me that I am known globally. Like I go to Bali and I'll run into somebody from Moldova who bought my book, 5 or 10 years earlier and recognizes me. That I have this money niche is just crazy to me because I went off to college and got a degree in religion. I just, I'm spiritual. I'm from California, it's what we do. And I just want to help people. And by the way, those of us who just want to help people tend to have the worst relationships with money. So, and it's not an accident. And this is a really, really big piece. So here I was, religion major, life coach, starting in the entertainment industry in 1994 with writers and directors and producers, and really having a reputation for magical results for these first-time actors or producers who are like getting TV series and selling their films for large amounts of money. And very, very quickly, within just weeks of starting working with me. And there was even kind of a line of people who wanted to work with me. And I was doing all the stuff you're supposed to be doing, the public speaking, the brochures. Back in the olden days, children, we would go to live events with these trifold paper things that we called brochures that we hardly use anymore because everything's online. But I had, I was well known. I had people who wanted to work with me, and I would choke when it came to getting paid. And I was doing the right things, and I was saying the right things, and I was taking the classes on marketing, and I'm a very good student. I graduated as a National Merit Scholar even after a catastrophic head injury and a coma and all the cognitive problems from a traumatic brain injury. So if I determined to do something, and I'm like a lot of women that way, if we're determined to do it, we will do it, and we will, do everything, and we'll read all the books and work with all the coaches and take all the classes and do all this stuff. And then when it doesn't work, we feel like the biggest losers in the world. And it hurts. And not only are we not making money, but we're also spending all this money to not make money. And I took all the classes. I had the vision board. I had the millionaire mindset. I had the coaches. I live in kind of the woo capital of the planet. So I have friends who would wave their hands and speak codes and all sorts of stuff to change my money DNA, air quotes here. And nothing was changing. And at my low point in March of 2003, and I had been coaching for, 9 years at that point? 8 years? Let's just forget about, 9 years. At my lowest point, I was struggling to make $100 a month living in Los Angeles, which is among the most expensive cities in the world. So I was living on credit card debt, borrowing from family, still getting like these great results, undercharging. At the lowest point, I had like one not so great client paying me $100 a month. And even that was looking sketchy. And I took this class to overcome sales objections. Like I kept taking more classes. By this time, I had a dozen certifications. I'm a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming, Ericksonian hypnosis, coactive coaching, coactive relationship. It just goes on and on and on and on. Doesn't matter. I still could not get paid. So I took this class on overcoming sales objections to learn the quote magic words to say when somebody says, "Oh, I'd love to hire you, but I don't have time or I can't afford it," or whatever. And there's no limit to the people who will teach you what to say in that kind of situation. So I took the class, I learned the words, and 7 people in a row, I overcame their objections and they said they would hire me because I'm a good student. And the punchline is, 7 people in a row did not show up for our first call and didn't pay me. And that was when, as my now husband would say, the wheels came off the bus. Like I lost my last gasp of hope. It's so soul crushing, heartbreaking, infuriating, scary, hopeless to get rejected like that when you're doing everything. I was taking classes that were teaching me to do what I was already doing. It was like that snake that eats its own tail, And
You were on a what I call the hamster wheel.
Of death, the hamster wheel of death. And I remember being in my little tiny 1-bedroom apartment, not that far from where I am now. And dragging closed the blackout curtains and like crypting out my room and getting on my bed and just screaming and crying and raging against existence. And I felt hated by the universe, like it was sadistic and it was setting me up here. I finally knew what I was here to do, and I was so freaking good at it, and I couldn't make a living. So what's the point of living? And it was one of those moments where I really just kind of wanted to take my ball and leave the playing field of life. And you know what that means, because what are you going to do? And I just cried and raged until I had nothing, just, until I ran out. And it was at that moment, sort of like sinking to the bottom of the pool, metaphorically, where I had 2 thoughts. And one of them was, Californian that I am, well, maybe money needs to be your next area of spiritual growth, right? Which, by the way, is, great advice for me. But that isn't what changed my life. The other thing I thought was, what is going on inside of me that I don't know about that can't be with money because this does not make sense. I had the results. I had the skill set. I had the marketing. I was doing all this stuff. There was something inside of me that was like superpowers of money repulsion, and I got curious about it. And things changed very quickly after that. This is still not what caused the change. I think it was the next day, very soon after this, like, take me earth and just, dive into the abyss of despair. I had a conversation with my coach. I want you to realize how crazy that is. I was making $100 a month. That doesn't pay for rent. That doesn't pay for health insurance, car insurance, cable, food, anything, right? And I had a coach anyway. And I have to say now, thank goodness, because it saved my life. So I have a conversation with my coach. And also this coach and I graduated and got certified on the same day, same place. We were friends, but he owned a house and I'm struggling to make $100 a month. There's a difference there. Even if our skills aren't better or worse than each other.
There's some disconnect.
Yeah.
There was some type of disconnect. Yeah.
And for months, I would do everything he told me to do and I would execute it well and nothing changed. Not his fault. On this day, I just vomited all of my rage and despair and hopelessness and anger and, just by the way, every healer and coach listening right now knows that we love this. And I'm not being sarcastic. A coach loves something to work with. And so I'm not like okay, coach, what do we do now? Good client. I'm just, this vomit of despair.
I've done it. I've done it. I've done it. I left a voice message on Messenger with my coach, and I was like, I know we're not due for a call. I know we don't have a group call, and you're getting this. And I literally just vomited all out.
Well,
they love that. You're right. They love that because it actually gives them something to work with.
Yeah. And this is also where the change is about to happen. On a neuroscience, yes, I do woo, but I also love, love, love science. I graduated as National Merit Scholar from high school, even with the head injury, just made me more curious about the brain. And in neuroscience, when we light up all our neurology with a really strong emotion, that is chef's kiss, the perfect circumstance for rewiring your brain. Neuroplasticity. It's the best moment for change when the stakes are high. You and I could talk about negative money beliefs for 30 years and it would be fascinating and it would not change a damn thing because change is not an intellectual exercise. It's so much deeper. It goes into the heart and into just our survival because we have this prime directive to protect the host. To protect you. And part of that is protecting from scary change. Unless where you are is so dangerous and so uncomfortable that we can override all of the forces that want to keep things the same and we can change and get rid of what is no longer serving you and replace it with something better. By the way, that's a huge thing. I never, ever, ever remove anything, no matter how toxic, without replacing it with something better. That's how you get change to stick. So just like if you sat through traffic 45 minutes to get to work every day and you found a shortcut that got you there in 15 minutes, you don't need 21 days to change a habit. You are going to take that shortcut every day immediately. So I'm going to teach you my shortcut. What happened is, so I show up at my coaching call with all this despair. And it inspires this very strange idea and question from my coach that had never come out of him before. And he said to me, if your money was a person, who would your money be? And in that moment, because I was so activated and so upset, I instantly saw a person in my mind's eye without having to, struggle with it or construct it or think about it. It was like he was there. And my money in that moment was this big, scary, dirty, violent biker dude who terrified me. All bad, all malice, wanted to do me harm. By the way, I have no problem with bikers. But this one was bad. He was like tall and bald and had the sideburns and the white beater shirt and the tattoos. And there was just something about him that hated me and was dangerous. And in that moment, I had this, I imagined myself at a live event with this guy, and I could observe myself being hyper vigilant and watching him constantly to create maximum distance between us. And that was my huge aha moment, that it didn't matter how many newsletters I wrote, how much public speaking I did, how many webinars I led, how many client enrollment calls I had. It just didn't matter what I did, because every cell in my being was creating maximum distance between money and me, because it was this big, scary, dirty, violent force of evil that would destroy me. And I never knew that I felt that way about money. Why would I? Until I was asked who money was in that moment of deep, deep pain. It only works when you can get deep enough to activate the pain, to understand why you would protect yourself from money. And this is a really big point. I have coached so many thousands of people that I stopped counting years ago. And what I've observed is that change happens at the speed of safety. So if you are trying really, really hard to change your results, whether it's money, whether it's love, whether it's health, whether it's career, whatever it is, and change isn't happening, and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, and you're reading the books and taking the classes and taking the actions, and it's not budging and it doesn't make sense. It has been my experience coaching all these people. I've observed that almost every time, and I'm saying almost just to cover my bets, but honestly, in my observation, every single time, the person has been protecting themselves from what they want. And they're not stupid, and they haven't imagined it. They're protecting themselves from things that should be protected from. And so what we need to do is make what you want safe. And when what you want is safe, it's shocking how quickly and how dramatically things can shift, whether it's making $1.2 million within a few hours. And that happened with my client, Leslie, in Idaho. Or getting pregnant, or overcoming some other, health issue, or attracting love. I slayed my love monster in 2012 when I was 45 and never, ever, ever married. And I met my husband 2 months later. And that will be 13 years ago. 12 years ago this August. And we've also been married 26 times in 21 countries, heading for 100. Remember, so it comes bigger than you expect, because you've just been spending so many years of applying energy to that area of life and getting no results. So when you finally take away the defense and the wall, it's like it all comes like pouring in really fast and big. So anyway, back to my story. I digress a lot. So my coach said, if your money was a person, who would your money be? And it was this terrifying biker dude who was just hateful and dangerous and caused fights and wanted to destroy me. And it suddenly made sense why I was protecting myself from money. And I never, ever knew it. All those years of hard work and taking classes and trying to get comfortable receiving
you were
money.
actually getting you were actually getting in your own way.
And for good cause.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and one of the things I was going to say is, a lot of times when our nervous system is protecting us for a reason.
Yes.
I tell my clients, and I've told the audience, I'm in the process of becoming trauma informed, and the reason why I'm getting the certification to be trauma informed is because the more I do this, and just from my past and talking with clients, there has been some kind of trauma around money, and a lot of times it's from our childhood and can go generations and generations and generations back. Just like drug addiction, alcoholism, what we see and are taught about money before we can even walk and talk actually comes with us, right?
Mhm.
And we have to be able to turn inward. And what I tell people, it's basically how you're saying, where you're saying that you have to do more than just say you're going to do something. But I tell people you have to acknowledge where it's coming from. You have to acknowledge who would money be, or how do you see money, right? You've got to acknowledge what that is and where it's coming from so that you can then like change it,
Yeah.
make it safe. I call it flip the script, but be able to change that so that it's no longer the big scary biker dude.
Right. So it's no longer dangerous.
Mine's a gremlin. Mine's a gremlin, by the
Yeah.
way. So
Or Hitler, or a slaver. I just um I'm going to break it down. I'm going to finish my story, and then I'm going to break the process down into 6 steps. And just a quick preview, because I think this is really, really important, is that the root cause of the money drama is never about money. And, typically people think it's about money, and there is a money story and a money drama and a money trauma, but that's kind of later in the story. That's more of a symptom of much deeper stuff, because money is just a concept that human beings invented, right? Big deal.
Mhm.
But it's what money represents that makes it such a doorway into the most vulnerable aspects of our human experience. And that's why it cuts so deep. Um, okay, so it became very clear to me in that moment, as I see this biker dude, that he was all bad and that he shouldn't be in my life, and that I could never have money in my life if it was the biker. So I had to imagine getting rid of the biker. And I'll go into more depth on that when we circle back with the steps. As is often the case when you solve one problem, yay, then you realize there's a problem waiting for you behind the solution. Yay, I got rid of my money monster. Oh, heck, I live in Los Angeles and now I have no relationship with money, and that's not going to last me 30 seconds. And I need a better relationship with money, or the monster's going to come back. So I thought to myself, well, who could I want in my life so much that I'd be willing to have this person in my life, even if it was money? And this is actually kind of a tough problem, because if my only relationship with money was an abuser, I'm not in a hurry to get into that relationship again. In fact, I'd rather just not if I could avoid it, but you can't. So, what would be so wonderful? Who would be so worthy of my deepest admiration and love and delight that I could love this person even if it was money? So the love comes first, not what are you going to do for me, money? That becomes just another monster, because it's giving the power away to this entity. But who would inherently be so wonderful that I could love this person and want this person, and sort of overlook that it's also money? And when I asked myself, who could I want so much? Because I was so in the experience of like, oh my God, the monster is so horrible. Now the monster is so gone. Oh, heck, I feel this emptiness. Then when I asked myself the question, the next piece fell into place. And I'm telling you this because for the process to work, and I'll give you the steps, very soon. You need to do each one fully, and it needs to be an experience, as I said, not an intellectual exercise. And I'll try to give you some tips. So, finishing my story, as soon as I asked myself that question, instantly in my mind's eye showed up this tall, dark, handsome, beautiful, sweet, clean cut, romantic young man who was like dressed in a tuxedo and his hair was slicked back and he was holding a bouquet of red flowers as if he was going to take me to the theater. And he was so cute and he was so loving and safe and yummy and in love with me. And that last piece really blew my mind because the idea of money being in love with me, who thinks that way? And given my life experience, I certainly didn't, but this guy did. And he and I called him money because money was that area of life that needed my love and healing. And I could feel how much he wanted to be with me and how much my rejection had wounded him. By the way, this is really important. We aren't making money into a god or Santa Claus. This is a partner who loves you and is worthy of your deepest trust and respect, and someone you would want to have who loves you more than anybody in the world and whose heart you can break because you have the power, you have the body. So I always want everything I teach to empower you, not give your power away to some fairy fantasy, even though fairy fantasies are awesome, right? But for real world tangible results, I want you to have the power. So that's step number 4. And
Right.
I'll finish the process, which is when I saw this guy and I could feel how much he wanted to be with me, I realized I didn't know how to allow money to be with me on the scale money wanted to be with me, or pretty much at all. Like I had superpowers, Olympic athlete powers to push money away. I was like, whoa, how do I allow money to be with me? And I was coming up blank. So I asked, which is a really handy reason to have money be this wonderful, luscious, loving human being. I asked. And when I asked, the answer came back. And he said at that time in March of 2003, I need you to love me and stop treating me like a monster. And he said it with such sweetness and vulnerability. And it was like, oh, I didn't want to break his heart that way. And it seemed fair, right? So, and a quick side note about the love of money being the root of all evil. Love is not evil. Love
Absolutely.
is generous. It's not selfish. It's not exploitation. It's not harm causing. Love is generous. Love is your best self. So that is love. And also a friend of mine in England took a class in ancient Aramaic, which was the original language, and said that that's actually not what it ever said. It said that the worship of money will cause you problems. Who wouldn't agree with that? So love is okay. You can love your money, honey. That's what I call them now. So had that conversation. He said he wanted me to love him and stop treating him like a monster. That seemed fair. I agreed. What would that look like? And in practice, I suddenly looked back on all the times I had enrollment conversations and people wanted to hire me and they would ask me what I charged, or the euphemism that I didn't recognize was a euphemism. How do you work? Which, by the way, is code for what do you charge? And how I would choke with guilt and shame that I'd be causing harm by charging money to deliver a service, which now, looking back, is kind of crazy. But at the time, it was like, I was spiritual and I just wanted to heal and cause no harm. And when money was a monster, there wasn't a way to charge money and have integrity and do good in the world. So this version of money wanted to save the world with me, wanted to help, no values conflict. So I made an agreement with him that next time he brought me a gift of love, which usually looked like somebody wanted to hire me, I would say, thank you for the gift. Thank you. And the punchline is, In the following days, like that week, 4 people hired me at double what I'd ever charged before in my life, just from that shift and nothing else. And they kept coming and they kept coming. So my rates kept going up. I started groups. I wrote books. I got a waiting list. I led my retreats, and I have made millions of dollars. And I'm the person who is struggling to make $100 a month. So let me walk you through the steps, because I learn in a very linear fashion. I teach in a non-linear kind of channeling, going with the flow and inspiration. But for my linear learners, I want to make it really clear and easy. So step number 1, to change your unconscious relationship with money from a monster to a honey. How do you know you need to change your relationship with money? Well, the first thing I always ask is what makes you think you have a money monster? Now, I have coached clients on public assistance and sleeping on couches, and I've coached billionaires, and I've coached everything in between. And sometimes a money monster looks like lack of money, and sometimes a money monster looks like money getting in the way of love, getting in the way of the life you want to lead, getting in the way of a positive legacy.
Absolutely.
Making you a
Absolutely.
target, the whole more money, more trouble, that whole shtick. So whatever it is for you, the fear that it'll go away, or that you're not loved for yourself, or that there won't be enough, or that you can only make money doing things that you don't like with people you don't like, that don't do good in the world, all of it, just throw it all in. And we start there. But that's not where you will find your monster. The monster will always be not the money story. That's the symptom of the disease. The disease is much deeper. It's what money represents. And money represents love, value, and safety. Are you
absolutely.
loved, or are you lovable? Are you worthy and valued? And are you safe? And anything in your life that ever made you feel unloved, not worthy or valued, or unsafe, that's where we're going to find your monster. And we just want to dig for wherever the pain is, even if you've healed it 1,000 times. If you can milk a transformation out of it, you get to go back. You get to reuse it. You already paid the price with the pain, and now you get to just use it anytime it'll do you any good. So if you had an illness or an accident, or there was violence or an eating disorder, especially for women, that's a great place to look, because and I'm speaking as somebody who had one when I was young. An eating disorder is a death wish. It's a rejection of self. There has to be less of me, that kind of thing. Anything that made you feel unloved or not wanted, that's where to look, wherever the pain is, especially if it doesn't look like it has to do with money. Start with money, sure, but also look for the stuff that hurts the most, that doesn't often look like it has anything to do with money. Often parents, because parents were our first experience of money. They told us what we were worth, what we could have, that's step number 1. Dig it up enough to feel like you're building a court case against existence and maybe even God. Like, all of this is bad. Throw in things in the world that wake you up in the middle of the night. And when you get a critical mass of ick, you've completed step number 1. And now we go to step number 2, which is now you give it personhood. Don't make it your parents. You don't make it yourself. Don't make it your current husband or girlfriend, or, anybody who's currently
But
in your life.
you basically give it a person. You
give it a
make
personhood.
it a person.
It can be based on a real human being, or it can be completely imaginary, but it feels real to you, and it has emotional punch, and it's all bad. Because in step number 3, you're going to annihilate it by any means necessary. This is why it's not a parent and it's not you. We don't harm you. But even maybe the worst thing you've ever said to yourself or believed about yourself, take it out of your head and put it in the mouth of your monster. And destroy the monster completely by any means, whether it's like imagining an atom bomb or a love bomb or the sun or a fiery pit or piranhas, or one of my clients ran over her monster with a monster truck. Some people like machetes or lightsabers. I don't even watch violent movies, but there's such a power that's unleashed when you choose yourself and you reject everything that no longer has permission to be in your life experience. And you put all those things that no longer get to be in your life experience, you put it in the monster and you annihilate it, and you leave no bloody bits for a monster zombie to come back. Just like clean slate, all empty, blank, gone. And
Right.
it can feel light, it can feel expansive, it can feel ecstatic, it can feel scary, it can feel anything as long as it feels different. Thumbs up. Good job. No trace of monster. Step 3 is complete. Step number 4, now you get to meet what's left. And all that's left when you annihilated your monster and everything that you've rejected is gone. All that remains is love. And we are going to give love personhood. Again, this is your imaginary friend, but it's also real because your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between real and imaginary. So it is real. It is a real relationship. This is your new relationship with life and love in yourself. And we're going to call it money, because money is an area of life that needs our love and healing as individuals and as a species to survive. And this person loves you more than anybody in the world and chooses you over everybody in the world. And I want you to feel this person, smell this person, hear this person, and maybe even finally see this person. But in that order. Feel, smell is very emotional. Hear, I love touch. And then finally, what does this person look like? What does this person think about you? What does it feel like to be with this person? Step into this person's arms and feel him or her or them stroking your hair, whatever your flavor, and just feel the safety and feel the love and feel the companionship. And now you have somebody to just pour out everything that you're worried about or concerned about, or the things that used to concern you. And you can imagine sitting on a couch and cuddling together and looking at the circumstances as your life as a couple, and look at it through your money honey's eyes, because your money doesn't have your insecurities and neuroses. Your money honey sees how powerful you are, how worthy you are, how lovable you are, and sees the bigger picture and sees what you might not have seen. And that's step number 4, is now you have a conversation. Or 5. Sorry, 4 was meeting the money honey. 5, have a conversation. I invite you to use my first question, which is, what do you need from me to allow you to be with me the way you want to be with me? Because again, you have the body, so I always want to give the power to you. And then step number 6 is concrete, measurable action. Action is magical. If you want physical results, take a physical action. And it doesn't have to be obvious. It has to light your money honey up like a firecracker, something that your money honey is excited about. So maybe it's doing your taxes. And I've had clients say, wow, those taxes felt like foreplay. Whoa. Whew. Light me a cigarette. And sometimes it's like going dancing or getting a massage or learning French. I had a client whose money honey told her to stay home and do laundry instead of go out one weekend. And while doing laundry, she got a phone call and a $20,000 client. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make sense to you and your money honey. And do it, because doing it signals to you that you are committed to this relationship, that you are a good relationship partner, that you are worthy. And do it without attachment to results, because that brings back the fear and that turns your money honey back into a money monster. But just stay in communication and then see what happens. And then let me know. Because I just sent out an email last week and then posted it to my blog, and then got a letter from a guy named, I think his name was Doug Weinberg or something like that. But anyway, he wrote to me that 15 years ago, he did a workshop and he did the money, honey, and money monster stuff. And he didn't think about it. And after that, and 2 weeks later, out of nowhere, he got a check for 4 figures. And he's telling me this 15 years later. Don't wait 15 years. Just drop me a note and let me know. This is my kink. I have no shame about it. I love to hear what happens. And go to my website at morganarae.com. Easy peasy. It's just my name and add a .com at the end. One word, morganarae.com. And you'll find my blog and hundreds and hundreds of videos and articles answering people's questions. You will find my 4-part Money Magnetic video series on the homepage. You'll find my Money Love Quiz also on the homepage, which is an easy peasy, no wrong answers, just where are you on your journey? And here's what I recommend you do next based on your results. So lots and lots of resources there. And you can always reach me through the website at morganarae.com and find more information and let me know how this switch from monster to honey works out for you.
I love the way you did how you said it, from the switch from the monster to the honey. Because, for my listeners, a lot of times I tell them we're changing the relationship. We're changing the relationship with your money. And I've never used the analogy monster and honey, but in a sense, it's still the same thing. We're changing your relationship. I tell people all the time, if someone was to treat you like shit, would you stick around? Would you come back? Would you stick around? If no one appreciated you, would you stick around? And the answer is always no. Well, then why would money? That was what sent me on my deep dive. As a coach actually asked us, a group of us, that. And I was like, hell no. And they were like, well, why would money? And I went, like light bulb just went off, and I went deep diving into money trauma, money stories, the relationship with money, all the ends, the energeticness of money, how I am spiritually, how it lines up all of it. I just went on a huge deep dive, like literally, how they say you can go down rabbit hole. I went through several rabbit holes.
Good.
But it took me on this journey to which led me here. And, one of the things that I'm passionate about is when we realize that we can actually change our relationship with money, that we can actually change it from that monster relationship to that honey relationship. And, it'd be a drop down gorgeous dude or dudette or whatever, right? But when we change that relationship, it opens up so many doors, especially when we're energetically aligned.
Yeah.
And, I think it's really, really important that we realize that it may take a little work, but doing the steps the way you're saying and doing it and really, really being honest. And that's where I tell people a lot of times, look, you don't have to be honest with me. You don't have to be honest with Morgana. You don't have to be honest with anyone, but you need to be honest with yourself when you say who who that is and envision it and doing the steps. You have to be honest with yourself, right?
Well,
and I think it's really important.
And it's my job to be able to tune in to that. Like, I really don't care if any of the facts of my client's story are true objectively or not. If it's emotionally true to the client, it's true.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
It's also important to complete this process in one sitting. Like, I had a 15-minute conversation with an artist, I think it was Chris Galligan, about the process, and he got $100,000 in orders that night. And I've also been in the circumstance where I had a client where it took 8 hours, really challenging hours of digging and digging and digging and digging to get the client to the place she needed to be for the change, because she had so many layers of trauma. Not her fault. And it's like, I will go as slow and take as long as it takes to get where we need to be for the change to be possible. And then she made $1.2 million over the next 2 months. So it really, yeah, it's great and fun when it's quick and easy. And I always, ask clients, is it okay with you if it's quick and easy? Because I want to lay that foundation. But I also really, as a coach, it's my responsibility to adapt to what the client needs. And there's no way to know before we kind of
Nope.
go in.
That's the reason. Right, right. And that's the reason why I tell my clients too is that I start where you're at, because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
You have to start where they're at. Because if you don't, then none of it's going to work anyway,
But the reason I
because you
say
have to be willing to do the deep work.
why I say that for me it's necessary to complete the process in one sitting is because I don't want to open up like this can of trauma and then go, oh, well, you look at the time. It's really important. Again, you never take anything away without something better being ready to replace it with. And for myself, I had heard the idea of relationship with money for years, but money is an abstract, imaginary concept. And it didn't get real for me until I gave it personhood, which is,
Hmm.
that's the shift. And um, the key is, in my experience, for the big results. Like my client Perry made $13 million in 3 years after I coached her. And I just have like, I get a note every day from somebody somewhere, whether I coach them or they did the process on their own with my book, Financial Alchemy. One of my favorite clients, Pam, had her first $250,000 sales month doing the process on her own with my book before I ever knew she existed. And then she hired me, and then she bought the company that she was making those sales for. Now she's the big boss lady. What is just really important is, again, safety. If you're, the safety to go deep enough, to feel enough, to have to make the monster real and have a good reason to get rid of it completely. And that creates, sort of like the vacuum, and nature doesn't like a vacuum. So it sort of invites the energy of the love person to come in after that. And the word you said, alignment, it's always about alignment. And if money is this person who adores you and is fun and shares your values and wants to save the world with you, then there's no obstacle.
Absolutely. Morgana, I appreciate you being on my show, and I want my listeners to know that, I always tell people that there's more than one way to do this. That's the reason why I have Cash and Sass podcast. That's the reason why I'm so passionate about women being able to stand on their own 2 feet. That's the reason why I want women entrepreneurs to see that they can create and retain and expand wealth, whether they come from money or not, because I didn't come from money. And, I my story's been told quite often. I was on food stamps, and I was told all the stories that I would never get off of it, because now I would be. And again, don't tell something, especially me, don't tell me I can't do something, because I'm going to guarantee you I'm going to prove you wrong. And in that process, I learned that I say relationship with money because, and if that works as an abstract or if it's a personhood, however it works for you, that's the key. I want you to change that relationship, and imagine them being a person. If that's what helps do it, please do it. Because you're still getting the same outcome that me and Morgana are telling you that we want you to do. And that's opening yourself up to creating and retaining and expanding wealth so that you can make a bigger impact in the world and so that you can change the world. And I believe that it's going to be the heart-led women entrepreneurs that are actually going to change the world. I believe that with every fiber in me, just like I know that this is why I'm here and what I'm supposed to be doing. If you'd have told me this 20 years ago, I'd have laughed at you. And I still know that now it's what I'm supposed to be, what I'm here for. I want y'all to please take all of this in because there were so many gold nuggets. And I want you to go to her website and I want you to find all the things. And we will have all the stuff in the show notes. And, just take what resonates in and let it help you change that relationship. Because honestly, that's the first step. I don't care if you're a millionaire. I don't care if you're making 4 figures, 5 figures, 6 figures, mid 6 figures, whatever. If you don't have that relationship where it's a good, loving relationship, you're always going to feel broke. And I've had tons of clients who are making that kind of money and they're like, I don't know where my money's going. I feel broke. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to backtrack from this part. And y'all know me. I believe in the mindset and the management. They go hand in hand, but we're going to back away from this part and look at this part because there's a block here and we need to figure out what that is. So thank you again, Morgana, for being on my show. I truly, truly appreciate it. I love going from Monster to Money Honey because I love money. So, remember, my sassy friend, practice that gratitude, change the relationship, have a money honey instead of a money monster. And until next time, stay sassy. Bye. Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.